She want me to lock it down, but I told her to pass the key. You gotta slow it down, girl, you moving too fast for me.
So welcome to 2 a.m. radio, man. I just want to do something different this time because I just wanted to do, a conversation where we talk just like you do in your
Uh-huh.
podcast because I love your format, man. You are one funny ass
Thank
dude,
you, man. I
man.
appreciate it.
How long you been doing podcasting for, man? Is that something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, so I basically started my thing around 2014, 2015-ish. I kind of had another one that I started that didn't really properly kind of take on, but then I started doing the one I'm doing now, the Exchange English Show, properly from about 2015. And it was
Mm.
mostly just like a self-service type of thing. Like I was going through some. I was doing that thing that most guys do, where like you're going through mental issues, but you don't know it, and you just like try and do other things to kind of block stuff out. So I was running a lot. I was working out a bunch. I was just trying to distract myself from like my internal self speak. Then I realized once I started listening to podcasts that it kind of eased a little bit of that self speak in my head. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because I don't talk to many people outdoors anyway, it's nice just to have an opportunity just to like speak about things that I see and I'm interested in and stuff. So it basically started like that. And then from then on, listening to podcasts like Joe Rogan, Bill Burr, early Tim Ferriss and stuff, and a few others, and CrossFit kind of podcast. And suddenly I started to become interested in like the format of it, and it does sort of become a thing. And then I started to kind of get serious in terms of doing it all the time because I just enjoyed sort of doing it. And it kind of replaced because I used to blog quite heavy back in the day, and it kind of replaced like being like a blogger in that respect, like writing articles about things you like and things you've seen and things that you don't like and stuff. So it's just a easy way to do it, just to speak.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
amazing, man. So you kind of use it as like this therapy kind of thing. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it?
I don't
Like,
want to be too
shit.
corny and say that. It's not like it was like a means to an end because I remember there's this one really cool interview I think P Diddy has with like BET, and it's like filmed in black and white. It's like one of my favorite clips, and he's like talking. There's a section in it where he's talking about he's in love with his black skin, and his black skin's like mahogany or something. It's really crazy and dumb and P Diddy esque. But there's this section in it where he talks about how he speaks to himself a lot, but he's talking from a manifesting point of view. But I would legitimately have like full blown conversations with myself, and then and then I'm like, okay, cool. If Diddy can do it, if Diddy's successful,
Yeah, did he
if
could
Diddy's
do that shit?
successful, right? Then I can be successful. So I kind of took that self speak. I was like, okay, cool. Don't look crazy outdoors. Just speak into a microphone. That's all. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
mad. That's mad. Yeah, because you know that talking to yourself is a sign of intelligence, bro. You know that?
So they say. It's like when people say if you miss words out, like, I don't know. No, I don't bow that stuff, man. I don't bow that stuff. I don't bow that stuff, man.
That's true. You gotta look at the where's the proof, but that's funny, man. Because I do the same shit sometimes, man. It's cool talking to yourself.
Yeah, man. Because
You
other
got
people
some
just be
real time.
chatting shit. You wanna, you know what you say. You know what you're like. You know you're always right. So let's talk to yourself.
Holy shit, man. You got this awesome sense of humor, man. It's just amazing, bro. Because I remember I was listening to your podcast. You were talking about how you used to listen. Man, I don't know the name of those podcast dudes by memory. I know by face, but you were saying that you were working and you used to listen to podcasts, and other people would join in. It'd be funny too, and it'd be like, and it had this good ambiance, and like you're working, you're listening, you're laughing, and you know what? You're doing. I do the same thing with your
Oh, amazing,
podcast,
man.
man. Which
Amazing,
is I
amazing.
thought,
Yeah.
yeah, man. My wife be looking at me like, what the
Hilarious.
fuck? Like, I can't explain, but this, I'm
If there's
listening.
one thing girls hate is men having fun and men listening to other men have fun. Like it's like kryptonite to women. Like it's like they shrivel. They shrivel at the sound of guys laughing and being jovial. But that was a Joe Budden podcast, and I maintain to this day, and I listen. I'm an unapologetic fan of podcasts. I'm not one of these guys that like pretends I listen to podcasts. I don't just do mine. No, I listen to everything. I'm listening to all of it. I watch videos, I do everything that everyone else does on the internet. Um, I can't stress it enough. That peak period of like the period between when the podcast was named, I'll name this podcast later, and then it was changed to like the Joe Budden podcast when they used to film it in Parks' house. That Joe Budden podcast, I maintain, was one of the best podcasts ever, 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 ever.
Mhm.
ever. It covered everything from music to sometimes fashion to sometimes art, relationships, friendships. And I'm not somebody that likes all that relationship stuff. Like I detest like the stuff like Fresh and Fit do. Those kind of topics about who should pay for the first date, men and
Oh,
women, all that sort of stuff is like it's like no. But they did it in a really good way. Like it was always really um evolved. It was a really kind of like it had high vibrations. The conversations they were talking about when it comes to relationships, and honestly, that period of time, especially because I was working like horrible jobs, I was working like in retail where you don't get any days off apart from Christmas Day or something. So I was working like around the clock, 10 hours a day, in the stockroom, stacking boxes of shoes and shit. Having that in my head to kind of listen to or on the Bluetooth speaker, that was like it was literally a godsend. Like I don't know how I would have survived working those kind of like shitty jobs not having that, man. It was so good.
do you still like feel that connection with Joe Budden, man? I'm a bit torn, man. I don't know what to think
Nah,
about this
man,
dude right
nah. And it's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's not his fault. It's my fault. Like wrestling. Like when like I
now.
think every guy has that period of time when they feel realize wrestling's fake, and you either continue watching it or you don't watch it. I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah,
When I realized Joe Budden was not the guy he purported to be on the podcast, it just turned me off because I believed all of it. I'm naive like that. I'm the classic, like if you tell me you love me, do you know what I mean? Like I'm down,
yeah,
put a ring on it. Do you know what I mean? I'm that guy. So
yeah.
I believed everything that he was talking because at that period of time he was talking about the being a creator. Sorry, for the creators. I think he had a particular phrase he used. Like, but essentially every topic that involved like record contracts. He'd always be like fighting and kind of arguing against the record labels and arguing for the artists and saying that record labels are not fair, the industry is corrupt and influence and stuff. He'd be arguing about that. And when podcasts were starting to blow up and Spotify was trying to start signing people, he'd be fighting against Spotify and say, "Hey, I'm doing this for you. Like I'm going through this battle, this hardship of like negotiating with Spotify and not getting what I deserve, so that the path for you guys coming behind can be clearer and also the fans can know what's happening." But then in the end, he ends up being exactly the same person that he was ragging against when he came to dealing with his friends Rory and Moore. And that breakup for me was just too much. I was like, I can't even listen to his voice because he just makes me pissed off because I believed so deeply that he was that guy. So it's really my
Wait,
fault, man. It's not his fault at all. It's really my fault.
nah, listen, there's something I don't remember it right now, but something about he got mad greedy. You remember that? Like they came up with like a fat check for him, and he was like, "Yeah, but Joe Rogan, y'all are just fucking giving me just this much," and that's what turned me off. I was like, "Man, what the fuck? Like, what's that about? It's just about
Nah,
money to
but
you,
that
bro?
but that's the
Like,
thing
that's
though. You have to understand because at that time, like I kind of don't blame him. But I also knew when he started mentioning that Joe Rogan stuff, I was like, oh no, this is over. Because I maintain to be a really successful person online, especially like a content creator type person, you have to have a good amount of salt-based sprinkling delusion. You have to have it. Because if you don't have it, there's no point in starting. Because when you start, you have like one listener, or you might have zero. So what makes you do episode two, three, four, five? You have to be a little bit delusional. So in Joe Budden's head, he legitimately thought he was like the urban Joe Rogan in his head. But he
Jesus.
didn't understand that actually he wasn't. He just had a really like he's always had that, even in his rapping career. He's never been big, but he's always had a really strong, hardcore niche audience. And that audience was the same audience he had the podcast, but a little bit grown. It's a little bit bigger, but it was still a very small but hardcore niche. Like because I was the type of person like I went to the live show. Like it's probably the only podcast live show I went to. I bought merch. Do you know what I mean? I was
Oh
a
shit.
I was a diehard fan, and I think everybody was the same.
Oh
Every
shit.
other fan was kind of the same. They were really kind of involved in it and backing it. So when he saw the Joe Rogan numbers, he didn't realize that Joe Rogan is like he's like CNN. He's like commercial, whereas Joe Budden is very like not underground, but he's a little bit more niche and small. So when he started comparing himself, I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, Joe, no man, like you don't understand. You guys are not even in the same league. And then obviously when the money leaked of what Joe got, and if you listen to some of these comedians and read between the lines, it's definitely around 350 mark. So you got 350 million for that 4-year deal to license the podcast only. And Joe Budden allegedly said he got offered only 20 million. It's no wonder he went crazy. It's no wonder.
No, hold on. No, but when you take that 20 million
Of course, no,
though,
no, of
I
course, no.
mean,
But that's what I'm saying. You have to understand. He's not. He's delusional. That's what I'm saying to you. I'm a fan of the guy. I love
That's
the
right.
guy.
Yeah, that's what
Joe
you
Budden
said.
has always been delusional. He's the same guy that thought Drake copied his entire style, and that's why he's popular.
Oh shit,
Honestly, that's what I'm saying. You're not dealing with
I
a normal
remember.
guy here. You're dealing with Joe Budden. He's really good at rapping. Don't get me wrong, and I'm sure he's kind of interested because he's the kind of first person that was talking like about mental health and like emotions, being very vulnerable on rap records and also rapping really hard. It wasn't a thing that was done. But then Drake come along, he kind of added melodies and stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Joe Budden thinks he's responsible for Drake. That's how delusional he is. And he also thought at the time
That's
he was deserving of as much as Rogan got, which is insane.
insane. Absolutely insane, bro. You know, he kind of reminded me of the Amy Schumer situation. And she was like, "How come Dave Chappelle gets this much and I only get like what was it, like 14 million or
Yeah,
something like
this is
that?"
just yeah, yeah. Look, I think there's times when it makes sense. Like I forgot that woman. What do you call it? The black lady. I think is Monique. I think her when she was going through trouble
Oh yeah,
with
yeah,
Netflix, and I think she like I
yeah,
think she was even saying I want the same. She basically saying, how can you offer me 750,000 and then offer this person 10 million? Do you know what I mean? The pay discrepancy
yeah.
is awful, and in content generation anyway in general, especially on the internet stuff, I think there's an issue anyway overall with a lack of transparency between content creators. I don't think in YouTube. I think YouTubers are a bit more transparent. You can go on YouTube and find loads of guys that say, "Hey, I've got 10,000 subscribers. Here's how much money I made on AdSense." But I think in the podcasting world, music world, or whatever, or that kind of scene, whatever it is outside of YouTube, people are a bit more like closed about it. So obviously the platforms take advantage of it. Do you know what I mean? So in one
Yeah,
sense,
yeah.
I get their fight, Joe Budden and money. I get it with the money stuff, but if you're looking at it long game, taking the 20 mil up front now and improving your worth and then renegotiating down the
Right.
line isn't that bad of a deal anyway. It still may be hard to take if you believe that you're 300 million worth, but come on now, like really, like 20 million to sit in front of a microphone gossiping about fucking love and hip hop, like that's light work. Do you know what I mean?
Bro, what? Free money right there. Like, yo, but here's a good question though. You think anybody else will ever like get that Joe Rogan paycheck
Yeah,
ever?
of course. Why not? Because you have to understand this.
Man.
What's his
Whew.
name? Who's that guy? It's like um Aiden Ross, that streamer.
Oh, that
Yeah,
guy's
but
horrible,
exactly.
man.
But here's what I'm
Ugh.
saying though. He allegedly, again, you don't believe because these guys. I think part of the marketing, which is really good, is that the platforms just allow them to say what they want. So at the time the Joe Rogan deal
Mm,
got announced, he gave me the. I think the first show back after the Joe Rogan deal was done, I think was with Bert Crash or something. I think one of those kind of guys. And I remember listening to the conversation, and he gave the impression that it wasn't 100 or 200 mil, but he was happy that people are saying that because if you got more, why clarify? You know what I mean? It is what it is. But I think
mm.
in the
Right, right.
influencer content generation side of things, on the reverse, I think the platforms like it when the streamers like they just add gas and say, yeah, I got 500 million. Do you know what I mean? Because it just makes them look good, and it makes the streamer look good. It
Yeah,
adds a bit of
yeah.
panache to it. So I don't know if Aiden Ross got
It-
150 million. I don't know if he got it from Kick, but if he got anywhere between 50 to 100, or even under 50, that's well deserving for the inbuilt audience he's bringing over. Because he brings all those kids that subbed him on Twitch over to Kick because that's the only place that he streams.
Man,
So I think if somebody else is out there who has got a catalog, an archive of interviews the way that Joe Rogan has, it may be the same. Maybe a good example is Lex Friedman. Is a good example. Somebody like you
oh
could
yeah.
definitely he's definitely deserving of that kind of money for sure, for sure.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got some
because
heavy
and also he's
people on
bringing.
the
That's what I'm
side.
saying. He's bringing fans. The Joe Rogan thing isn't just about him. It's about because I can honestly say like don't get me wrong. I wasn't like a free guy listening to ads, but the reason why I actually put Spotify on autopay was because of the Joe Rogan experience.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, like before, I would pay
Yo,
it. I pay it whenever. Whenever I was listening, I just pay it. But I've actually got an auto pay to this day because of the Joe Rogan experience.
you know what's funny though? Because I consume a lot of your podcasts, and there was a moment, bro, where you started turning against Joe Rogan and you gave your arguments, and I was like, all right, cool, that's some great arguments, man. And I didn't think much of it, but your argument
Well, look,
doesn't do it at all.
what's that?
And
Sorry, you can't at the end. What did you say?
I said, when I heard your arguments against Joe Rogan at one
Mm.
point, because
Hmm.
you were criticizing him pretty hard.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
like go. I wasn't like, all right, that's it. I'm done with Joe Rogan. But subconsciously, if like I turned him off. And what surprised me, man, is that I came back to him later on because the dude is so consistent.
That's
And
yeah. To be fair, like I think all fans, I think actual fans, not stands, because I believe in being a fan. I'm a real believer in being a fan of things, like
yeah,
because I feel like I'm so opinionated with the things that I don't like I'm not tied. Like you know what I mean? I like that I'm not tied to anybody. No one can tell me what to do. So why not take advantage of it and just say what you want? Like do you know what I mean? It's boring. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I've not got what's his name? I've not got I don't know, my hippo telling me that I can't speak about certain things. So it's better just to like fire off the hip. Who gives a fuck, innit? So so I think if you're a real fan of somebody, you have those moments. Everyone has them. I think people that will listen to Lil Wayne will say when he started drinking lean, he was shit, or whatever it may be, or he's off the drugs and he was rubbish. Or people that fans of Jay Z are when he got rich, the bar's all about flipping suits and watches and shit and whatever it may be. Every fan has that moment. But if the artist is really good, they're gonna bring you back in again. And all it
That's
took for Lil Wayne was a couple of dead albums, and he brings you back in again. Jay Z, the same thing. He drops 444, his most introspective album ever, and then suddenly everyone's fucking on his nuts again. Same thing with Drake. Drake just a couple of albums ago, he dropped that House album. Everyone was saying he's crap. Then he drops the one with flipping 21 Savage. All of a sudden you're back again. But if you're a fan, you're always gonna leave that door open. But if you're a stan, you're gonna be like too gassy with it, which I don't like. But the Joe Rogan thing, he's like you said, he's just so consistent. The guests are
he's
so
consistent.
amazing, and I maintain to this day, he's legitimately the coolest rich guy there is out there. I don't care because especially when I do my like random show stream and stuff, and I cover all these comedians who chat shit and are horrible. I imagine if you gave Brendan Shaw the influence, the the
Oh
name
man,
recognition, the money, the respect that
self
Rogan had,
destruct.
they would be Genghis Khan reincarnated. I swear on my life.
No, they would self destruct,
Exactly.
bro. They would be fucking
So Joe Rogan
fire.
to me is only now in his late like you can tell. I think every person got so allegedly they say that a lot. I think that's the kind of the rhetoric of like Ayn Rand and people like that. Eventually, the older you get, the more conservative you become. Especially if you start making money, you want to keep more of it. You don't want to give it all away. Blah 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 blah. So Joe Rogan is kind of turning into that guy now. But that being said, he's still, I think, the coolest rich guy there is because I don't know any other person that's as wealthy as he is who just is kind of cool, you know? Just
Yeah, he's level minded, bro. He like he doesn't let it get to his
exactly.
head. But when you look at Brandon Schaub, right, and I listened to what you were saying, like I noticed through you like how much of it, like how he started transforming himself. Like he was like a pretty cool, healthy guy, and now he's starting to look, I don't know, man, a little like a little, older, a little chubbier, a little less healthier. And I'm thinking, man, if he had that Joe Rogan power, bro, personally, I don't know, man. I think he would self-destruct, bro. Like he wouldn't survive the hit.
Because
He would.
that Joe Rogan
I don't
power,
know.
you have to because I'm not in America, right? I'm not in LA, but just imagine what that because in my head he's like a male Oprah in my head, but just imagine what it's like. Just
It's true.
imagine what it's like in real life, like in real life in an industry like stand-up comedy where it's not really pick me, sorry, like it's not really choose me kind of industry like acting, but it's similar like that. Like you do your open mic stuff, you graft a little bit on the kind of underground circuit. Then there
Yeah.
comes a point where somebody has to choose you. Netflix, HBO, Showtime, Comedy Central, whatever. Someone has to choose you at some level. A club maybe gives you an appearance. Maybe you're opening for some big comedian. So at that level is where Joe Rogan pops in. He's the kind of overarching, silent sort of like figure that just kind of like he's not really too showy with his influence, but he's kind of like if anything, he kind of reminds me of Jay Z a little bit. Jay Z's kind of like a little bit like that in hip hop. Like he's kind of the silent chooser, but he doesn't flex his authority and power too much. He just kind of chill. If those guys had that power and influence that he had, I agree with you. They probably would self destruct, legit, because
He would.
it's
Too much
insane.
pressure.
Like he's the guy, the actual guy, and those guys just with the tiny bit of influence they have, they go crazy. But another part of me, my Christian understanding upbringing side is like, can you really blame them really? Because everyone seems to go through that. Like you look at Jordan Peterson, like all these guys that started off decent, they get a bit of fame. it must be a bit dizzying too to think about because these guys, maybe Brendan Shaw's not a good example, but most of these podcaster guys, these comedian guys, are like guys in their 50s and they become really famous again, or like they become famous for the first time, late 30s, early 40s. It must be a bit hard to deal with, you know? You go from being a regular dude to now suddenly getting 100,000 views per video on YouTube. People are like screaming your
Yeah.
name down the street or an airport, asking for autographs, you know?
Yo, you remember that day Brendan Schaub called out Joe Rogan and said he was slinging dick or some shit?
The greatest
I'm
day, the
surprised it's
greatest
still.
day, the greatest day, man, the greatest day, the greatest day, the greatest day
How
because
is
we've all
he
like we've
talking to
all know
Joe
that person.
Rogan, bro?
We all know that person
Nah,
who's
chill.
friends with somebody famous,
Get
and they
out of here.
wear it like a badge of honor. We all know that person. We've all grown up with somebody who knows somebody circumstantially. Maybe they went to the same summer school, their mums went to the same salon, whatever. We know somebody that knows somebody that's famous and they wear it like a badge of honor. And what's that? What do those people do? They always do too much. They always do too
Talk
much.
to
And that's what Brendan did. He wasn't happy enough being the fucking the highest amount of guest appearances on Joe Rogan, having his fucking silent overarching protection. The like I remember early episodes, like early times of podcasting. A lot of guys, I can't probably find it now, but there was many guys that would be saying and complaining basically about Brendan, like without saying his name, that how come these guys are coming to the comedy store, they're not passed, and they can park in the parking because I think the parking in the comedy store is like reserved for people who are passed or something along those kind of lines. And he was getting all those privileges that you don't get if you're like a 3 year comic. It doesn't happen. Instead of just being happy and grateful with that and using that to your advantage, that kind of open door and taking advantage of kind of like maybe turbo boosting or fast forwarding your flipping learning experience, he got too comfortable. He got too comfortable. He did too much. And classic Brendan Schaub, his mouth, moved quicker than his brain could. Slang. And then the best thing, the excuse, the follow up was the best. That was the slanging dick comment was on. The excuse after was like
talk.
trying to convince us, the audience, that slanging dick
Oh,
doesn't mean fucking. It means crushing it in life.
yo, I was laughing so hard. I don't know how long he took to come up with that excuse, but it was so fucking awkward. It was like, what are you
It was
talking about,
brilliant. It
bro?
was brilliant. That's classic. That's classic. That's just classic getting too comfortable and being too like just thinking you've arrived.
That's that self-destruct.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Basically, there you go. That's what self shock. That's it. That's a self shock point. So maybe they wouldn't be Genghis Khan. They wouldn't be tyrants. They will just implode very, very quickly.
They would
Uh,
implode. I'm telling you. And does Joe Rogan still talk to him? Are they
no,
still
no, no,
close?
no, no.
Or is he
No,
like,
like
get the fuck out
again,
of here?
I pay way too much attention to this stuff, and this stuff is like my Kardashians, so I notice little things, right? And again, like I'm like the fan fiction guy, yeah. I'm projecting a lot on these guys. I'm sure it's not that deep, but I could notice from what I was watching, and again, I used to be a fan of the Fight and the Kid. I was a hardcore fan of the show. I bought the fucking the Fight and the Kid 3D thing. They had some DVD thing that was like had sketches and comedy in it. That was quite cool. So I'm a fan. I actually know these guys like intimately, like oddly enough, and I could tell from the moment he made that comment, the relationship has never been the same. He can try and convince us, say, "Oh yeah, me," because he does it all the time. Like he does these weird like humble brags. Yeah, I text with Joe all the time. I was just talking to Joe actually the other day. Like he just
Ah,
forced Joe Rogan into the conversation. Like just So I know he tries to do that to convince himself that they're still friends like that, but no, that comment fucked it. Because
right.
think about it, like personally, I'm not that kind of guy, really. But because if I'm doing dirt and scumbag stuff, I just do it on my own. I don't involve people, yeah. But I know some guys are weird like that. They like to involve people in their scumbaggery. Oh yeah, can I come to your house? Can I bring so and so here? Tell my girl that I'm over there. All that sort of stuff. Cool. If you're like again, I'm not condoning anything because we've all got our foibles. But if you're that kind of guy that does the scumbaggery with friends, you should know the first rule of that is you keep your fucking mouth shut
Shut the
at all
fuck up for
times. Your
sure.
mouth never moves. Like you didn't see
Ever.
nothing. You don't say nothing. You take that shit to your grave. But of course, this guy is one of the like I said is one of those
Oh,
guys that we all grown up with. We've all known a guy who knows somebody famous, and they wear it like a badge of honor. Instead of being Joe Rogan's friend, he used it like a badge of honor. He used the guy for promotion, for clout, all this sort of stuff, and it finally bit him in the ass.
Yo, imagine you're Joe Rogan, bro, and you come home and your wife is like, "What the fuck is this about?" You,
Uh-huh.
why would you put your own friend into that situation, right? That's just,
And
it's the
I
worst.
mentioned before
Ah,
when I was talking about this that think about it also. Okay, we can all assume stuff, but not it's never been intimated, never been assumed, hinted at, floated ever that Joe Rogan is that kind of guy. Now,
I don't think he is,
no,
man.
no,
I don't
no.
think he is.
You could think that because like there's some hardcore fans who think the girl from Honey Honey, that comes on a podcast a lot. I think she's the singer of the band Honey Honey. Like him and Joe, like
Mm.
basically Joe Rogan. There's a meme that goes around that Joe Rogan when he's interviewing like an attractive female, he gets really giggly and stuff. Like he's a different kind of guy. But that's nothing. That's not a big deal because I think all guys do that. You kind of acclimatize and sort of like regulate yourself based on who you're talking to, right? Like you talk to the bros one way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the ladies one way. But and also you have to understand like he's got all girls, right? He's got all like his family, his house is full of all girls, so he knows how to communicate with women. You'd imagine in that way properly. But a lot of people think maybe he's got Honey's his side chick. But that was just like a meme on the Reddit. It's not like a thing that people actually believe. And the first time it was ever
Mm.
hinted was fucking Brendan Shaw. He's the one that put it out there. Like this guy's gone through his whole life being fucking ninja with it. Allegedly, he's been a ninja with it. Like, I mean, he's got 17 burner phones. Like, you can't bring a phone when you meet him. Probably he takes you in a fucking black
Whoa,
limo, and then the one guy to
for
fuck it all
real?
up is fucking Brendan Shaw.
Holy shit, bro. That's crazy to me, man. That's wild. You know what I want to ask you about? It's something that's really hot right now. This is that BGL saga, man. This- Remember that dude kicking his girl's car? He's attacking me. He's attacking. I was like,
He's
yo,
attacking
I
me.
had to tear.
Ah, 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 the side mirror. Ah,
You were like, I thought he broke a
man, the
windshield or
dramatic.
something.
Like, I think we can. I think that's why we're all laughing. We can all tell, and we don't need to say it, but we can all tell that this is a on both sides kind of thing. Maybe, of course, him being the guy,
Oh,
he's obviously going to be more aggressive and it's all going to leave more lasting damage. But we can tell these two people, like just the people that we all know, we've seen it, we've lived next door to them in apartments and stuff. That are always arguing, always smashing stuff. They break up, they're back together. It's that kind of relationship. So it's funny to laugh at only because of that. Because if it wasn't, it'd be like arrest that guy and put him under the jail. Do you know what I mean? It'd be that kind of vibe. But
I think it's gonna end up that way for sure.
nah, he'll be fine. He'll
For
be fine.
sure.
He'll be fine. She'll forgive him and end up getting back together again. Trust me. Like,
You
yeah,
think so? Holy
they're
shit.
toxic, man. Like, who else she's talking to? Like,
That's
whenever
beyond
she's recording,
toxic,
she's like saying really leading questions. So you want to throw me out the window? Is that what you're saying? You want to throw me out the window? It's like, yeah, of course, I want to throw out the window. It's like they're just toxic. Like, who does that to their partner? Who sits there and goes their partner into making threats? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't. It's just yeah. They're
Yeah.
just toxic. It's just what it is.
But you know why I'm laughing at this dude? I mean, I probably wouldn't be laughing this hard if he was like a cool kind of
Exactly.
dude. He's just
Exactly.
what he did, bro. I gotta laugh. I mean, like, why would you do that? You have a big ass mouth as well. I mean, maybe that's why you two are friends or whatever, or what used to be. What he did to Brandon Shaw, I was like, wow, for real though, bro. Going out there just talking shit about it.
Yeah,
Remember
of course.
that video after
Like I
video?
think all our parents, I think my parents did the same thing, and I was saying, you're talking rubbish, shut up. But unfortunately, the older you get, you start realizing everything your parents said was right. You are who you surround yourself with, man. It's no coincidence that this guy was his
Woo.
friend, and they were actually cool at one point, and it was cool enough to share. Like again, like I don't understand guys who do scum shit and get other guys involved, but he was trusting enough to do that, which is a mark of friendship. It's like going on holiday with somebody. That's like okay, cool, like we're friends for real now. It's the same thing that way. So clearly, there's something about that guy that attracts those kind of scumbags because I don't have those kind of people in my life personally. I'm not, I mean, I'm not the most friendly guy out there, but still, I don't have that kind of people in my life. So the fact that he attracted it was one thing, but also just forget that in terms of Brendan's fault because it's not really his fault. That BGO guy just stinks. Do you know what I mean? Like he was out here saying all this stuff about, and that's the kind of thing I always hate in type of people. That kind of not being able to understand your own foibles and pointing at other people's things. Like sort of like throwing stones in a glass house. He was going after Brendan so hard, like harder than anybody.
Yeah.
Like at one point I was like, relax, bro. I know you got money owed, but you're not gonna get it this way. And also, just
Nah.
chill, like relax. He was going hard. I thought, okay, cool. That's your
Wait.
fucking thing. And then I heard a rumor that he's owed 15K, but still, for the beginning, I was like, this is kind of gross, man. Like, you were friends at one point, now you're just sharing DMs and shit. That's a bit weird. Anyway, cool. And then guess what happens? Look what transpires. In the background, he's there fucking, doing UFC on his wife at home. Of course. What do you expect? Scumbag, isn't it? Like,
Cars and
oh.
shit. Woo! Man, that was funny as hell. Dude looks like I don't talk about, people's physical appearances, but that dude is one weird looking motherfucker though, man. He
And we all
really
felt it. We all felt it when he came around. We all felt this. Like, this is not a
oh
real
yeah,
person. Then you see videos of clips of him before. He created this person he is now to try and reinvent and restart his career because essentially, not to be rude to the guy, but he's a failed actor. He's one of those kind of like he's that story. He's that story that people don't mention. People mention, okay, you got to strive for your dreams, go for it, hustle, blah blah blah. But the actual other side of dream chasing is that sometimes it doesn't work out, and you end up being the 40-year-old social media manager. And that's what he is. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's sometimes that's what it happens. You end up being not even a social media manager, which is fine. You end up being a social media manager for fucking Brendan Shaw, which basically means deleting comments. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is a fucking sad. If you came out to Hollywood to pursue your dreams, and then that's what you're doing. You're like in the corner of a studio with no camera, no microphone, deleting comments. Like, come on, man.
bro, this all comes back to it, man. It's insane. I'm talking to you now. I'm realizing how this like self-destruction is really happening. Like, dude really kind of had a wave, maybe, you know what I'm saying? And then after that shit started going sideways, and man, it went sideways when he started getting that fame, bro. You see what he like, man, what he did to his wife and shit. I mean, I'm not judging, but woo, man, that's a bad fucking look because I know you were saying that people don't fuck with him anymore, right? They're kind of like, well, you had your 15 minutes of fame, you can get the fuck
Yeah,
out now.
I didn't honestly like. Again, I'm coming at it from. I try to be as neutral as I can, because in the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's just, and like I said, it's the Kardashians, it's Vanderpump Rules, it's fucking Big Brother. It's just fun to like watch these absolute psychos who've been, I think, blessed by the gods, by the universe, by Buddha, by Allah, whoever you fucking believe in, with this opportunity to like make money and pay their rent from just talking shit. Like, it's
Jesus.
so easy. Like, honestly, like I don't know about you, but I've worked some shitty jobs. Like, I used to work in a fucking bowling alley frying chicken nuggets and chips. And this bowling alley I worked in, it's like, everyone's got this kind of place, this kind of bowling thing where you have arcades and things, right? They didn't have enough money to
Yeah.
cover staff, so I would have to be taking people's orders and then running to the back to make chicken nuggets and shit and chips, and then running back to give it. So
What?
I was doing, so
No
I had to, like,
fucking way.
I'd have to take like 5 orders at a time, and then kind of pace them. Okay, you want 3, you want 4, you want 5. So I know what shitty life is like. Like, normal, you're going home smelling of that fucking fried oil. Like, and then
Ah,
you get your money
yeah.
at the end of the month, and you work full time, and you got like 400 pounds. You're like, oh my god. So I know
Yeah.
what that life is like. So when I see these guys self-destructing from this, I can't help but laugh because it's so
Stupid.
ridiculous. It's so
Stupid.
ridiculous, bro. It's so ridiculous. It is. It's just insane.
I Dog, I know exactly what you mean, bro. I've worked all kinds of fucked up jobs, man. When you're sick of this shit, man. You're like, I worked at the in the metro in Paris. I worked at the fucking I don't know if you heard of this. It's tennis. The Roland Garros. You know
Yeah,
what
of
that
course, of
is?
course, of course, of course. Roland
Yeah,
Garros.
I, bro,
Yeah,
Roland Garros.
you said English. Roland Garros. Yeah.
Roland Garros. Nah, I used to work as a dishwasher back there, bro.
There you go.
I'll
See,
tell you,
see, you know the pain.
yo,
You know the pain.
they never seen so much racism
Uh
in
huh.
my life because I'm like light skinned. Bro, holy shit. They would just throw food at
Uh huh.
you from the because you were no
Uh
way
huh.
hell were you gonna be presented
Uh
in the
huh.
front. The black people were washing dishes, and I'm telling you, I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean,
Shitty jobs,
bro. Like
man.
you- you're like, man, I got 200 euros in it. Yo, are you fucking nah? Like, yeah, and the fact that these dudes, man, just talking, bro. Like just like what we're doing. Imagine that, y'all. Just we be talking here and you get a fucking, I don't know, $20,000 paycheck or some shit. I don't know. That's insane to
And
me,
there's
bro.
many. Cause there's
That's
the
insane.
thing. There's a whole slew, and I listen to them. Many podcasters out there who just enjoy what they do, and it's just like, or content creators, and they're like unproblematic, as people say on the internet, unproblematic, and they just enjoy it, and that's
Yeah.
great to see. But there's also a very small minority of guys and gals out there who are just on another level. They're just insane. It's like I think to myself, like, rah, man, like, you are like this, and you don't even have like discernible talent where like people are like chasing down the street to get your autograph. You're not even Messi or something. Imagine if you were that guy. Like it's just insane how they don't they're not able to like temper and sort of like realize the privilege and the opportunity and the luck they've been given in life and just kind of enjoy it for what it is. Instead, it's kind of all this other drama that doesn't really make sense. Like the the BGL thing being a good example. Like really and truly, at the heart of it, it's a dispute over money. In my experience, disputes over money, unless the
The
person is
worst.
really disrespecting you, you don't have to go this far. It doesn't
Mm.
necessarily need this. There are things you can do in the
Nah,
meantime that you can go to get your money, whether it's going by legal ways, whether it's going through HR, whether it's directly communicating, being unrelenting and calling and email. There's things that you can do before you get to the okay, I'm pressing nuclear button. But BGL pressed that when he
twice.
like at the first text. As soon as Brendan said
Yeah,
this
that
ain't gonna work out, he went, "Oh fuck it." You know, it's like, whoa, give the guy time. Like, give the guy time. Give give Brendan time to come around, man. Like, I know the guy's a little bit,
nah,
he's got his issues, but give Brendan time to like, fuck.
I love all the Mufasa, bro. Oh my god, the dude really does look like Mufasa, though, bro.
Honestly that aerial insult was the perfect one. Like it just broken down to one, and then it's like, and now like obviously he's leaking all the cheating DMs and stuff. It's like, oh,
Oh
but
man,
you're doing too much, bro. Too much, too much.
I feel bad for his wife. Bro. I feel bad for his wife. To tell you the truth, man. I mean, she might have some of her faults. I think you were saying that you were showing some DMs where she said she would kiss some
Yeah,
other dude
Luke
or something
Rockhold,
like
isn't it?
that. And you,
Luke Rockhold. She like he's look. It's
yo,
like
said, pull out the strap. Pull out the
it
strap.
keeps getting honestly, it keeps getting stranger than fiction. But it it wouldn't be surprising because these guys are such messes and everyone's such messes. It wouldn't be surprising if both of these guys still have their relationships. Brendan's still kind of married or not married, wherever he is now, and BJ is still married. It wouldn't surprise me. Don't be surprised if like you see a picture
That's not.
of those two, like because they all do that stuff that social media stuff people do, like where they go through an issue and then they post the like, no, we actually okay picture, like of them eating a picnic somewhere or something. Don't be surprised if you see that. That's gonna happen. That's my
Wow.
prediction. Oh, I know we have our issues, but I love this guy so much. He does that. Like, okay, cool, all right, whatever.
Wow, I can't even imagine that, bro. That's so way over there. That's another universe, man. I don't know. Wow. I said, how can you go back and forgive somebody after all that shit? Wow, man, that'd be insane, man. I'd be
It'll happen.
shocked. Uh,
I'm almost 90% sure it's gonna happen. Mm.
oh, Jesus Christ. Dog, so tell me, where are you trying to take this podcast thing, man? Are you trying to get on the Joe Rogan level? What are you trying to do with all this, man?
To be honest, I just like I've always kind of adopted the because I'm a student of Tim Ferriss, the 4 Hour Work Week guy, and he's kind of like methodology or sort of outlook on life, and essentially was what he put into his kind of first blockbuster book, the 4 Hour Work Week, which kind of got a bit of a bad rap because of the name. But essentially, the
Mm,
4 Hour Work Week was the idea behind it was like it was before everyone's doing like what they're doing now with like drop shipping and fulfilled by Amazon and stuff. He kind of was the first to kind of put it into context, and he was calling it a muse. So he said like you should have a muse that only requires you to work 4 hours a week, so you can do all the stuff that you actually want to do. Like I don't know, learn a language. I
mm,
think his book is like learn salsa, learn martial arts, whatever it may be. So basically trying to
mm.
find something that you can do as a business that doesn't require too much effort, but can also pay your bare necessities, and then obviously use your free time to do the things that you actually want to do. Or if you want to extend it more, I think in the book he says, oh, you can work remotely and go to different places and be location independent and go to places where maybe the rent is cheaper and your money stretches longer. So in short, I just want this to kind of be like, if this kind of allowed me to pay my rent, I'll be fine. It's not really I mean, and then anything above that is just like a bonus. But it's basically that at first. But then in terms of just me doing it, I actually enjoy doing it, man. I'm not really like oh, when I get to like 2024 I gotta have like 7 million downloads. Like it's not really that deep. It's just I just do it because I enjoy it, and if something comes along that's great. But like a short-term goal would be like, yeah, if it allows me, like, because at the moment it covers all my bills in terms of like uploads, like my uploading thing, my Photoshop monthly subscription, all that sort of stuff. It covers that. But if it's able to go to a point where it can cover my rent, that's fucking amazing.
Bro, you. man, I got no doubt, you know, honestly, man, not even trying to stroke your ego, but like you really got some serious
Thank you,
potential,
brother. I
bro.
appreciate that,
Like
man.
yeah, man, I have no doubt, man. You're definitely gonna make it to the serious
Brother,
leagues, man. And nah, for sure, man, for sure. And you know, I started this because of you,
oh,
man,
sick, sick,
because
sick.
I fucking enjoyed yeah, I enjoyed what you were doing so much. I said, you know, let me try this shit out because people tell me I talk too fucking much. So I said, you know, let me try try to talk and you know, so man, yeah, definitely, man. The simple fact that you're just saying that I enjoy it is how you know you're gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah, for
there,
sure.
even if you don't have a goal. You know what I'm saying? You're not like, yo, I gotta make this paycheck. I'm trying to make millions of dollars. I mean, that would be cool, but I
Yeah,
enjoy it,
it's like the
and I think,
I kind of adopted what's his name the Gary Vee approach because Gary Vee was kind of one of the ones that sort of popularized it. And again, these are all guys who kind of got bad reps, I think, because they're like I think someone mentioned it the other day to me. It's like those guys are like they're important at like a certain stage in your life when like maybe you're
mm,
procrastinating, maybe like you have that, you have those aspirations of like, oh, I want to be a CEO and entrepreneur boss and stuff, and you're like, working at McDonald's. You need somebody like that to kind of like G you on, but also give you the reality of like, bro, like, first of all, turn up to work on time at first, then build from there kind of thing. And then obviously when you start making
mm,
it, you stop listening to it because I haven't listened to Gary Vee in a very long time. But I used to be like a fan. I bought his books and stuff. But early on, one of Gary Vee's thing, I think he says it in one of the books. I think a social media book he put out. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called like Crush It or something like that. But his first
yeah,
sort of like call to action to content create, no, to people in general was that if you're working a job you don't like and you want to have opportunity to like maybe live the lifestyle or the life of like a content creator, just start talking about stuff that you like and enjoy. And then over time, maybe it will turn into a thing. But just it's also good to do it just for like your mental health and your kind of like aspirations, so that when you're coming home, you have something to look forward to. Because sometimes I'll record when I finish work, or I'll record before I go to work. So it kind of gives something to look forward to. You're keeping a mental note of things that you want to talk about, blah 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 blah. And I think a lot of those guys kind of took his advice, who said that he saw that meme or saw that kind of adage, and some of them, ended up having a podcast where they talk about the Real Housewives, where they talk about whatever, something very specific. Like if you just dial down, because what will happen is that when you're not getting any listeners, you're still going to talk about it because you like what you're watching. You love Love Island, you love the
mm,
Kardashians, you love all this shit. So you're not going to find it hard or like an effort because you want to rant and rave about what you saw in that previous episode. So that's where it kind of comes from. So I'd rather like what I'm doing than coming it like thinking, yeah, okay, cool, I'm gonna get this guest, then I'm gonna go there, then I'm gonna do this. It's like it's just too much. Like it's not necessary. Like it's not that deep, really.
it's
Yeah.
effortless. That's beautiful, man. Yo, I got a question for you, man. Would you work for Tom Sachs?
Oh!
Would you get a frying pan thrown at your head?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Would
yeah, yeah,
you?
yeah, 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 yeah. Tom Sachs for me
Yeah,
is up
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Like I don't have many like idols and stuff, whatever it may be. I try and just take bits and bobs from people, but Tom Sachs is up there for me with like Hiroshi Fujiwara, Nigo, John Takahashi, James Jebbia from Supreme. Like these guys were like important and kind of dictate culture in some way. And I was a fan of Tom Sachs before he did all the Nike stuff. Like when I used to, because I went to like a product design university and shit, and I was into all the stuff that he was doing. I think at one time I had a website that kind of copied the Tom Sachs layout and shit. And I love the stuff he was selling in his store.
Oh,
I went to New York in like 20. I think went to when I went to New York. I went to New York maybe like 2008, 2009, and I went to one of their first studios that they had out there. Like I'm a fanboy of them all together. And then I remember there was a
woo.
story that Heron Preston had where he kind of bumped into Tom Sachs at a restaurant one day, and he was wearing like a fake Rolex. And then Tom Sachs complimented to it's like a story he always tells, and he says, "Oh, it's fake," and Tom Sachs says, "No, it's real. Like as long as you're wearing it, you make it what it is." And he kind of like that kind of led him to kind
Oh
of
shit.
do the stuff that he's doing in terms of the real fake stuff and Da Vinci t-shirt, blah blah blah. So Tom Sachs to me is that guy. But I'm also very aware, these kind of guys who are like dictating culture and pushing stuff forward, they're not gonna be guys that go to church on Sunday and chill and just take their dogs out for walks and stuff. They're gonna be a bit fucked in the head. So when I read that article, I wasn't too surprised. Like it wasn't like, oh my god, Tom Sachs is like mean. It's like, I don't know, man. What do you expect? Like, the guy's intense. Like, he has a Bible about how you should like line up screwdrivers in a fucking studio. Like, it's not surprising that he's gonna tell you what to wear. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not too surprised. So if that means I get a little blue jacket, I get to wear some Tom Sachs and shit. I get to come in my little fixie onto the office and shit and whatnot. Yo, and I get to put it on my CV, like the little Tom Sachs logo with the like. I'm taking I'm taking a saucepan to the head. You know what I mean? Let alone a frying pan.
Yo, as long as you could throw it back
I
to
don't
me.
know. I don't even want that. I want the whole thing of like next day him like being so apologetic, really being sorry, give me a Tom Sachs bandage, taking me out for dinner at fucking Carbone or something. Like I want that. I want that. Like him being really sorry and then giving me a promotion. Like that's what I want. I'm all for it, man. Like the right people can abuse me. I'm not that kind of guy. The right people can abuse me, especially if it means I can abuse their flipping their rub. You know, like let's be real.
Yo, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I think it was a month ago. I saw him, bro. Tom Sachs
Wow.
yeah, bro. I was at the NFT Paris, and he had
Oh
this
yeah, yeah.
NFT
I saw
project
that.
he was
I saw
doing.
that.
Yeah, I saw him real quick.
Is he short?
Man, yeah,
He's
he's
short.
pretty. He's not like
Mm.
shockingly short, but he's about eye level. But you know what man, bro, you really got to be a fan of him because I come from
Oh
fashion,
no!
right,
Don't tell me he's a piece of shit. Oh no!
bro? Of course. What do you
Oh
mean? Like you can tell,
no!
this is the kind of guy. I mean, you are a fan. I respect that, but I wouldn't be like 2 seconds around
So
this
what? You
motherfucker
could tell
because
just by looking at him
I,
that he was not the funnest
I
guy.
do. I was abused in fashion school, bro. So I know these
Yeah, yeah. You can
motherfuckers,
tell,
right?
right? Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think you got some background in
Yeah,
fashion,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I remember back in fashion school, bro. I used to be like, they just abused the fucking students. Like they were like, you're a piece of shit. You never be nothing. You can't sew. Get the fuck out of here. And it was like, and you kind of get that mood from him when you look at him. And I was like, oh my god, this fucking guy. And then this article came out, and I was like, I fucking
The
knew it. I knew
the
it. He
thing
was
is,
like
well,
the guy, man.
I don't know. I think he's a bit unique though because from my experience of like being around that industry and stuff and being around people, because I did like product design and like said mines. I didn't do fashion, but at the time that I was there, we were basically on the same campus as like the as all the fashion courses and whatnot, textiles, menswear, whatever it may be. And one thing that I realized was that the real pieces of shit and like the ones that really had attitude were the people in like that weren't really important, like the middle people. So your lecturers, I didn't
Mm.
like lecturers who were like failed designers, um or like not to be rude but like those kind of people, right? Or like people that they used to
That's
work, they used to style for the face in the 90s and don't sharp about
yeah.
it. People that used to work at certain ad agencies that don't exist anymore, people who used to party at this famous club, like those kind of losers, they're the ones that were pieces of shit. Whereas if you met like for instance, if you met the John Gallianos, the because people used to say what's his name, Alexander McQueen was lovely as well in person. Like all these actual people, the
Mm.
real ones, they were actually the ones that were chill. So that's how it usually works in fashion. Like the girl at the front of the show that's gonna let you in on the list. She's usually the bitch, but the designer is lovely. That's how it usually is.
Really?
But in this case, Tom Sachs sounds like he sounds like all of them in one person. But the funny
Oh
thing is
man.
about the article, the funny thing is that, man, look when you're that's like I love how like design and fashion and stuff in creative world, it's kind of like sports, like how what you're saying with the John
Mm.
Moran stuff with the gun. John Moran, and if that's
Mm.
anybody else, you're out of the league. No one's signing you a liability. But John Moran's really good at what he does, and he generates money for people. So guess what? You give him a suspension. It's time served on the games he already missed out anyway, and then he comes back, in a couple of games. All good.
What? I thought he was
Nah,
expelled.
man, it's
The
just
fuck?
that's the thing. When you're talented, there's always an excuse. The same thing with
What?
Tom Sachs. That Tom Sachs article, like Nike line or something like what was the line? This is something like disappoint, like a line like something disappointing. It sounded like the same thing Kim Kardashian said when those BDSM bears came out about Balenciaga. This is really upsetting,
Oh,
and we're going to what you say the phrase? We're gonna circle back and like see what we can like. It was basically like anything but a we're not fucking with you. It was just vagueness. I was like, wow, Nike are actually gonna stick by this guy because those Mars yards they move. They move numbers.
Yeah, they got money behind it. You got
Yeah, they
excuse.
move numbers, man. Yeah,
Oh
so
man.
don't be surprised if you see the martial coming out and you see it tied towards like mental health, workplace conduct. It'll be some honestly, just watch. Something's happen like that kind of like or he'll do some tell-all interview with some podcast where he lays bare his hardships and how he grew up, his dad beat him, like watch. So I'm not watch, it's gonna happen, 100%.
But don't you feel like everything is so, I don't know what's the word, mirage, like surface fake? Isn't that kind of frustrating?
No, not really. Like, it's not. It's all like it's like WWE. It's all performance. It's like there's a clip going on at the moment,
Mm,
and like, because I would love reading comments. My main thing is like when clips go viral, I love to see what people are just saying about stuff. And there's a clip going viral. I don't know who the wrestler is. 'Cause I don't watch wrestling now, but there's some guy wrestling. He's walking out of the ring, and he's like goading the fans in the audience, and then some random guy comes out of nowhere and tackles him like a fan allegedly. And everyone's going, "Oh my god!" And the security come and no. But you watch it a few times. If you watch wrestling, if you grew up in wrestling, you know it's probably staged. But does it matter? It doesn't
oh,
matter because it's
I
like fun. It's part of it's a fun narrative that they're adding another kind of layer. It's not just what happens in the ring, right? In those kind of four ropes. It's actually what happens around outside of it on podcast. Like, it's all kind of their characters are sort of like being weaved into like real life and stuff. So I think sometimes with these mirages in the industry, it's not a big deal because sometimes the mirage is what gets you, like, it's what makes you interested in it, first of all. Then, if you actually love it, you'll stick with it. If you don't, you'll leave. But the mirage kind of gives you something to aim for, something to like, something to get interested in. For me, when it comes to fashion, that sort of stuff, it was a nice sort of like escape from like where I was from. That was a bit rough and stuff. So to kind of have this kind of like fantasy world that existed and stuff was quite interesting. But then as you saw the industry and you start going to fashion weeks, you start going to studios and stuff. You're like, ugh, like you maybe know a friend or two that's interned for a designer that you like. You're like, hold on, he's like, what? He did what to you? You're like, oh my god, and then the mirage goes. But I don't think it's a bad thing because it kind of gets you interested in something in it. And again, if it's for you, you won't care anyway. And what you'll do is like what a lot of my friends have done is that you'll use all those horrible stories as a template for what not to do. And you'll make sure that you correct it. So you'll make sure, okay, now that I've got my brand, if I have an intern, I'm gonna pay them. Now that I have my brand, if somebody fucks up, I'm not gonna throw a saucepan at them. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna try and see how we can
mm.
mediate this properly. So it's kind of a good thing as well that happens a little bit.
It's so fucking cutthroat, man. Because when you see what happened, Zendaya's stylist, man, I keep fucking
Law
forgetting his
Roach.
name, but I was watching. Yeah, Law Rose. When he came up to the Louis show, and they didn't have a fucking seat for the dude. Like, can you imagine?
Uh,
That shit
I
was
don't know. I don't
painful,
know. I
bro.
don't know
Like,
about him, man. He's going on a bit much of a press run, man. He's starting to annoy me a little bit. I don't know what's going on here, man.
oh
Yeah, I was for him. I was fighting his thing, but he's done like some like I think the latest one he went on M Rata. What's her name? Emily Radikowski's podcast, and he was talking
yeah,
about it
yeah.
again. Shared a DM that he got from Zendaya asking what's happening. All this like it's
What?
this, but again,
Okay.
it's that self-importance that fashion people. It's like kind of like I said about earlier about delusion. I think that self-importance is like a part of the game. You kind of need it because no one needs another t-shirt. No one needs another blouse. No one needs another pair of slacks. There's enough out there.
True.
But you have to believe in yourself
True.
that you're saying something different. You're telling another story that it makes sense for you to make these, like another pair of brown pants. Like, no, we need these ones. So I get it, but he's doing a bit much. Like he's doing a bit much. It's not
Nah,
it's
that's
not really
true.
that deep. Like that happens all the time. Don't get me wrong, it's embarrassing in that stage. Front row Louis Vuitton, you're walking away with Zendaya, one of the most famous people in the world, and everyone sees that you don't have a seat. And that woman, I think Emma something, whether is just looking at you so weird, and you're just like, okay, cool, and you have to go to the back, cool, embarrassing. But
Ah,
it
yikes.
happens all the time, bro. Like it happens all the time.
That's what
Like
I'm saying.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But the only person I feel like kind of dodged that, bro, was Virgil, man. I don't know. I didn't feel like he was about that bullshit, man. He came in, he did his work.
But
You know what I'm
that's the
saying?
thing. I was just thinking. I think actually, the good thing I like about that, especially in fashion world, more so in fashion, the good thing I like about it is that they treat you like shit, no matter who you are. So there's a clip that went viral of Anna Wintour going to some show, and the person that doesn't recognize her at the door. You seen that clip? I think it's like a black girl. She doesn't recognize. She doesn't know who she is. Yeah,
Holy
yeah,
shit.
and it's good because it brought her down for like again. It's not long. It doesn't last long, but it brought her down to zero for like a brief couple of minutes. The
Couple seconds. Quick.
the confusion of like, but I'm Anna Wintour. It's like, yeah, where's your pass, bitch? Like, and she's like, But,
Excuse
yeah,
me?
cool. That happens. Same with Law Roach. So, same with I don't know who's another good example. Yeah, same with Kanye West. That story of Kanye West where he went to
Oh,
study
shit, yeah.
at St. Martin's and they denied him.
Bro, you know what's crazy about that story is you met Virgil before,
Yeah.
right? That's insane, man. Tell us about that. What's the
Yeah,
story
so
behind that?
Virgil, like I think, like you said, I think the kind of bittersweet thing about Virgil, because I think I seen it when he passed, was that because I was working on that course and I was kind of like responsible for like booking. It's like a course called it was mastered, and they did like a streetwear course, like an online streetwear,
I watch it
yeah,
all the time.
accelerator, yeah,
I watch it.
for like brands. And the idea behind it was we're gonna take you from like PDF to like retails, right? So it's like kind of that whole journey. And when we first did the program, from minute one, the company I was working for, they wanted Virgil to be the main course leader. He was going to do everything. As soon as we
Mm.
proposed it to him, because he was going through some weird thing where like people in streetwear didn't want to really claim him, people in fashion thought he was lame. He thought, no, let me get other people around me who I feel like have inspired me to do what I'm doing. So it's like I'm maybe the overarching figure, but there's other people that I kind of look up to or kind of want to do the kind of course, the kind of day to day. So somebody that's an expert in merchandising, in design, blah blah blah. So I was responsible for going out and getting those people, securing them. He suggested some, but I went and got other people that he didn't really know. And it was
Man.
funny how many of them said no. And
What?
they're the same people that when he passed, they were, oh my god, doing the whole sloppy toppy thing. And I was like, you know what? You know what's really funny about that is that Virgil, I think, knew from minute one how bullshit the industry was. So he didn't even try and play like pally pally games. He just did what he thought
Mm.
he would want if he was coming up. So from minute one, collabs. Get this person involved. You see some kid on Instagram who takes cool pictures. You come and like the guy, I think the kid I did earlier on, the behind the stage videos, I think it's like Polish or something.
Mm.
He recorded all the videos for Louis Vuitton and Off White. He did like the really cool document. People don't do them too often. Those documentaries he used to do where they lead up to the show. It was some kid he found on Instagram. He got him, he DM'd him, hey, come and do my thing. That kid blows up and he starts doing like his own stuff now. Like he's getting, commissioned by all these other people. So he did everything that
Yeah.
was not really common practice in fashion. Collaborations, working with other people, being upfront about your plagiarism and shit, all that stuff that people don't do, he was putting it front and center. So I think that's a really
Mm.
amazing sort of like legacy and like blueprint he's kind of left behind of with people kind of following his footsteps. And for me in general, I think as well, he's another one like Joe Rogan, where like he was at the pinnacle of fashion, at the pinnacle of culture, like where
Mm.
everyone wants to be. Like he completed the fucking influencer game. He like influenced the Olympics. He was, I mean, he had all the medals, and he was so cool. That's the thing.
Man, I got this crazy fucking story with Virgil, man. Like, you remember back in those days when you used to intern with Kanye at Fendi,
Of
whatever?
course, yeah.
I was in Paris and I was a fashion
Oh,
student
amazing.
myself, right? And yeah, we were going. We would go to this club called the Teddy Twister, and Virgil was down there with Don C and all those fucking guys, and I
Wow.
came up. Yeah, bro. And I came up to him and I started this brand or whatever. And I was shocked, man. I thought the dude was gonna like, fuck
Uh,
off, man, but he listened to me. Actually talked to me. He was like, I was like, yeah, I got this brand. He was like, oh, what's the name? Da, 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 da. And so I think if I'm being honest, the brand was shit, right? So I never
yeah. Happens.
one good look at it goes, no. And I see him again at another club. Yo, Virgil, he's like, he's got these two drinks he's holding up. He's like, yo, man, come on, man. Like, he just walks away. And I was mad at him for the longest fucking time, bro. But when you mature and you see time pass, I mean, it's pretty insane what he accomplished, right? And like when I remember that video you made where you just talked about his legacy after he had passed, man, I almost cried, bro, because I was like, damn, man, he's Agostino's really putting it down right here because it was some real shit, man. Because I feel like I'm happy for Pharrell, man, but I'm not at the same time. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
like,
Because I think,
yeah, like that's to me anyway. In general, to me, when it comes to Virgil, I think what he's done, the blueprint he's left behind, and that kind of just extending the arm back, really leaving the door. Because people say a lot, oh, leaving the door open. Or I remember early days, there'd be like people like that whole fucking cringy shit about, oh, we're doing it for the kids, for the kids. You weren't really doing it for the kids. You're fucking charging £700, $700 for fucking hoodies and shit. You know, no kid's gonna be able to afford that. It's nonsense. But what Virgil did, he was charging $600 for the hoodies, but then he was telling you to copy it and make your own. He
mm,
was putting up the PDFs, the line sheets of how he does the thing. I know loads of kids, especially the kids that we used to kind of have on the master program, who took the templates of how to put a line sheet together from Virgil. They just cropped out all the stuff, emptied it, edited it on Photoshop, and then filled it up with their own shit. So he did that. He encouraged people to buy
man.
fakes. Yeah, buy the fake. Like, do you know, like, do you know what I mean? It's still the same work that's getting out there, kind of thing. And just being a cool guy in fashion overall, and even just the collaborations, like being like, because collaborations were kind of looked at as a bit like cheap, like somehow tacky or something. Like he didn't really have creativity, but he used collaborations like in the best way, like in the way that kind of Supreme does, where hey, we can't make a really cool rain jacket yet. Well, let's go and link up with the best rain jacket makers out in the world, like a North Face, and do something really nice. That's what he kind of did, and he
Mm,
worked on that stuff. Like that Arc'teryx skirt thing he did ages ago. It wasn't appealing to look at, but what he did and what he put it on the runway and stuff. Now look at Arc'teryx and what they're doing now. Like the guy was really forward thinking, but I think that kind of vibe and that kind of personality was really important to have because he reached such a high level that it gave no one else
mm,
underneath him an excuse to be a dick. They were forced to be nice, and then again his
true.
output as well, like the fucking the like. I have to tell you this, like just categorically, this guy would be when I was doing that course would be flying from Chicago to Milan to Paris to London to New like, and he'd be like he'd come to meetings like he'd get planes like he's getting trains. It was insane. Honestly, I swear to God, it was insane. Like he would never do meetings on Zoom or in nah. He'd come and meet you,
Wow.
especially that initial conversation. And then after that, he'll do like his famous WhatsApp stuff. That's when he first started doing it. And remember, the company I was working at, because that's what that's his actual workflow. They looked at it like they thought it was disrespectful. Oh, he's taking our money. He doesn't want to meet us. It's like, nah, man. This is like the modern age. This is like what's happening now. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But he would be flying all the time. He never complained. And then another thing, just as a kind of small caveat on this, is that never once did you hear him anything funky with girls. Nothing funky,
Yeah,
nothing weird.
man.
Just a pro, a fucking pro. That's the example that we all need, man. That's for once. Like everyone's got their everyone, like I said, everyone's got their skeleton, they've got their scumbaggery. But it's just nice to have that one guy out there doing the damn work, pushing culture forward, being in amongst as a straight dude around wherever he's around, right? And just doing the work and also not being an asshole.
Bro, like, do you imagine how much time he must have lost with his family, bro, to
Um,
do all that?
that's the bittersweet thing, isn't it?
Continue. It is,
Mm.
right? It's that I think about that a lot. I mean, like, he was a dad at the end of the day. Like, dude was never home, maybe, like, or very, very, like, he gave in the ultimate sacrifice. He probably thought he had more time. I don't know, but
Which probably
oh,
explains why towards the end he wasn't really around. So I think he tried to make up that time towards the end. And even though he did,
right,
like when we were working with him, he'd fly back home like a lot to kind of see the family all the time. He wouldn't. He's not like these comedians. Like a lot of these kind of stand-up comedians, as well, they kind of detest me as well. Like they kind of use their family as fodder, as material. Like, oh, my wife is dumb, my kids are stupid. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't know how rich they are. All this sort of stuff. But really, it's like the women are that they're the reason why you get to fucking have this career. They have to literally hold it down and raise kids while you're playing Peter Pan out
exactly.
there. But they don't respect. There's no lack of respect for it. Anyway, that not all that is by the by. When it comes to when it comes to him and that traveling stuff, I remember interview. The wife said something kind of telling. Was like, oh, she was like, I think people at the funeral were like, oh yeah, I'm his best friend. I'm this, I'm that, which they were because he had like two different lives, isn't it? He was like a dad and he had this life. And because she wasn't
Yeah,
around, like they decided earlier in the relationship, she was gonna be like, she wasn't trying to be like an influencer. She was just gonna, be a mum that just
right.
separate. And he didn't like to kind of bring back work stuff at home, whatever it may be. So she didn't know these people like intimately. Like maybe she might see him on Instagram, but like they would say that he's my friend, which he is, but to her they're strangers. So it's like, oof, like
Just imagine that. Like you just lost your husband and you got all these fucking people talking about he's my friend. Like, man, I don't know how she did.
exactly.
Like who you, bro? Like
I think
fuck
there's
away
one
from
guy in
me.
the article who said something like, one guy in the article said something like, or what I don't know who it was, guy or girl, was like in passing, oh yeah, if you need help with something, set up the foundation. I'm like, brother, like that ad is like his body isn't even cold. Like, what are you doing? Like, legit, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Shave your head, but then that's the thing. That's the clout demons. That's the thing with Virgil, especially I seen a couple of times because I went to that was my first time and ever time going to Paris Fashion Week for like that off white show. The famous one where Ian Connor ran down the in the runway with him, holding hands. I was there, and I
Oh
realized when I was
shit.
there, I was like, fuck, man, he surrounds himself with like a lot of clout demons, like a lot of like people that you wouldn't want to really talk to. But again, they were forced to be nice outside. Like he was stopping for everything. Like you mentioned, every interaction. Yeah, yeah, what's good, what's good. Da, 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 da. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sign this up. Like the
Oh my
coolest guy.
god.
Whereas some of those other guys were like, they wouldn't spit on you if you're burning. Do you know what I mean? Like, and Virgil's got everything. He's got all the clout tokens, and he's the coolest guy ever. Like,
Bro, you gotta imagine how exhausting that must be, bro. After all those fucking flights, you gotta come back and talk to
exactly.
all
So it's
these
people,
people.
and
You're
I
just
one of
like,
my dream is I got a passion for fashion when I was younger. It's like, oh god, here we go again. Yeah, pretend like it's the first time you heard it.
man, phew, man. That's what I was saying. Like, I don't think you don't get that same feeling from Pharrell. I don't know. Like, I saw that post you said when you were like, Pharrell's out in calls, but who's working at Louis Vuitton? I was like,
I think
man, Pharrell though.
again, I'm a Pharrell fan. I'm like, but I'm not a fan like some of these kids are because I came up at a time when he was trying to pretend like he used to skate. So my Pharrell love is the music. Like when it comes to the music, I'm like a fucking
Mm,
stan. That 4-beat intro, like I know it off the back of my head. You know what I mean, I'm a stan on it. When it comes to style, I never really sucked him off like that because I was wearing Bape when he was wearing Bape. Do you know what I mean? Like let's just say, like don't, he has no
yep.
money. Clearly, Neo's his fucking best friend. He gets the 101s. But I was queuing up outside a busy workshop in London, and when he was wearing it as well, and whatever it may be. But I also know that knowing his work intimately, he doesn't do collections. Like he does capsule stuff, and he's good at it. He's really good at doing like little small bits. Okay, cool. Like that. Like look at the stuff that he did in the auction. He kind of freaked the gold BlackBerry, the little key rings. Like he's just got really good taste.
Oh
He's got a good eye for like little things that he likes. He
yeah.
kind of edits them. He might make a good NPC machine. He might make some cool luggage, Goyard bag, cool. But like 64 looks plus resort collections, collaborations, installations in store. What I wonder, what I'm saying about the fashion lifestyle, like Smoke and Mirrors. We know what the truth is. We know that he's there as just like a figurehead, and he's going to be like the overseeing guy, but he's not going to be there in the studio like Karl Lagerfeld sketching. We know that's not going to be true, but they're making it seem like that's a fact. So I'm saying, if he's
Nah,
at cause,
everybody is.
can just be honest and say that he's not designed. Let's be honest. If you're going to a private view,
Never,
when did you design
ever,
the collection? Let's just be honest.
never. You do it like Rap Simmons, bro. You just be like, yeah, I design, sure, whatever that means. Comes by and just says, yeah, that's good, that's bad, or I'm out of here.
But it
It's
also won't
crazy,
surprise me if
bro.
it's really good. It won't surprise me if it's
Well, yeah, they're the
yeah,
best
it wouldn't
people
surprise me
ever,
if it's really good. It
right?
wouldn't surprise me if it's really good because look at that Kid Super guy. I think his clothes fucking suck, but he put out a pretty decent collection under Louis Vuitton. So it proves that they can just plug and play you, but they make it seem like the appointment is so important, it's so monumental. Is it really though? If you can be crap and put out a decent collection, that means that the machine is the most important thing. Really and truly, the machine is important because that Kid Super collection. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't wear anything from it, but it wasn't that bad. It didn't scream amateur. It just was, whatever.
Mm.
So clearly, the machine over there just keeps churning, boom, 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 boom. But they don't want to. But they make it seem as if Pharrell was like going to be there, fucking pinning clothes. Like, come on, man, Come on.
Bullshit. 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 Nigga ain't gonna do shit. He ain't gonna do
He'll
shit.
decide some colors.
He ain't gonna do
He'll put some
shit.
bedazzlements. I want pearls on here. I want, rubies there. But let's be, come on.
Yo, Agostino, man, I gotta bring this to a
No
close,
problem,
man.
brother.
But woo! Thank you for coming up here again, man. For real,
No
dog.
problem, man.
I appreciate you, man. Please, let's do this
Yeah,
again.
anytime, man. Hit me up, man. You know where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm gonna tune in into your next live show. I'm definitely gonna try. Drop in a few comments. I fucking love it.
She want me to
Keep doing
lock
what
it
you
down, but I told her to pass the key. You gotta slow it down, girl, you moving too fast for me. Nobody did it like this, so they wonder, they asking me if I can slow